Life Lessons from the Crazy Dutch Farmer. Lesson number 8, haying. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Al Person. You can contact me at pastor@mascot.church or in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe if you enjoy these videos. Pass them on to your friends. I worked for a period of time for a Dutch farmer whose name was Harry. And people called him crazy, but it was good crazy. And I say, if you called me crazy and mean the same thing, man, that is such a compliment. I don't mind being called that kind of crazy at all. Well, in dairy farms in North America, particularly in Canada where it's colder, have to work hard in the summertime so that there's enough food for the cows in the winter. Well, that's not only dairy farms, that's all animals that you're going to feed. You can't, of course, farm in the wintertime. And one of the most important parts of the season is the haying season. Now, hay is made of or composed of crops like alfalfa and clover and various other grasses. And depending on what the farmer chooses to cut or what he has to cut, usually hay is grown is cut 2 times a year. You have an early one and a late cut and maybe a third cut of hay. What's that mean? Well, the hay when it's ready, the grass when it's ready is cut with a particular machine. It sits in mounds, in rows, and then another machine comes a couple of days later and picks it up and turns that into bales or whatever. Now, today you see these big round hay bales. They are big, huge, as round as a drum. No one picks them up. They're all done by machine and often covered in plastic or something like that and then taken into barns. But my favorite, or the other type that we had then, was the square bale. And so it was it could weigh 25 to 30 pounds, half that in kilos roughly, and good size. Oh, there you go. You can't even see my hands. And they were then tied with twine by the machine, and you pick them up and move them. Let me show you some pictures to give you a bit of context here. So I'll pop my screen up, my image back up here. This is a hay wagon that is full of bales, and it would hold about 220 bales, something like that. You see there's a very important back here, and the bales would extend a little over the sides of the wagon and be pulled by a tractor. So I'm not going to come back to my own face here. We'll just go on to the next one. Once the bales are pulled or put on the wagon, they need to be stored. So we have a farmer here, a picture of him. This was a little bit different from what Harry had, but a lot in common. And he would pop the bales on an elevator, and they would go up to this area here, which is the hay mow, and there's people working in here stacking them. They don't just fall. That would be terrible if they did. They have to be stacked. The baling is done with a machine called a baler. In this case, the farmer is just dropping the bales on the ground. That's not a good idea. They need to be picked up. But sometimes you have no choice. You just got to bale it and pick it up and do it. So the machine picks up the cut grass from here. It's dried a little bit, processes it, and then turns it into these square tied bales. Now, here you have a man doing something else. And I'll flick back to my screen, and I'll explain what that is. But before, I need to talk about the lesson. When haying approached, the haying season, we got the wagons ready. You might remember my first ever in this series. Harry, I'm not up to doing this job. We were actually building or reinforcing wagons for baling. And of course, there's this big buildup. That was in the wintertime when we were doing that job. And the first cut of hay is a couple of months later, and then the second cut of hay after that, and maybe a third. I don't remember if we did a third or not at the time. We certainly did too. Well, the first cut of hay, as it was approaching, everybody's busy. They're always talking about haying. And Harry said to me one time, he said, Albert, he said, you will remember haying for the rest of your life. He said, in the future, you will always remember how good it was. You will always remember how much fun you had when you were haying. This is one time, ladies and gentlemen, when I heard something, I was sure Harry was wrong. There's just no way I'm going to look back on this and enjoy it and remember it at all. In fact, now that I'm over 60, I am dead sure that he was right. Absolutely certain that he was right. So the machine that I just showed you is a stooking device, S-K-S-T-O-K-K-I-N-G, stooking. Let me pop that up on the screen. You see the man here grabbing a bale, and he's standing on a slide. Well, the tractor pulls this slide, and then the man pops the bales onto the slide, and he builds a little pyramid of hay bales. And when he has built the pyramid, he pops a lever down here, and the pyramid stays in the field like this, it's called a stook of hay. Now, the hay bales have to be turned around before they are put on a stook like this or on the machine, because this is the bit that comes out of the baler that's facing down, so it's a little bit smoother. So in the event of a bit of rain, it'll fall off the edge of the stook. And then you come up with a special tractor mount on a front-end loader, and you pick this up and you put it on a wagon and you take it in. So this is what you might do if you had too many bales for the hay bow at the time, the hay mow at the time, or if you just desperately have to get this stuff baled and process it the next day. That sometimes happens. You just are kind of out of time, because you can't be making hay in the dark, can't be at night. You've heard the phrase, make hay when the sun shines? Absolutely. The grass has got to be dry enough, but not too dry. It's a science. It's an art. Well, remember Harry's lesson? He said, you will remember this always. You'll always think about what fun you've had. There was one time where I had to stand behind there in the stooking machine, and I thought I was just terrified. Not terrified, but I thought, I don't want to do this. His oldest son drove the baler. We had a big field to do. And as the bales would come out, you'd have a bale hook in one hand, because you're not going to be able to move on this sled too much. You're kind of there. So as the bales come out with your left hand, you grab the bale as it's coming out with your right hand, you pop down and grab it, and then you swing it around bottom side up, and you make this little pyramid. And then you have the top, and when it's done, you pop it. Now, each one of these, they can be heavy, especially in some places they get very heavy, or if you've had to make a cut and the hay got a bit wet or whatever, it can be too heavy to even put in the barn because it might be too moist, whatever. Anyways, I started that day. I did 2 days of it, maybe 3, I don't recall. And we was, and ladies and gentlemen, I look back on that 40 plus years ago with one of the fondest memories I ever had. Also, haying in general, it's the hardest work. I mean, you're at it all day long. Because what will happen is you'll fill those wagons, and you can do 1,000 bales in a day. So that's 4 or 5 of those wagons, and they're just waiting there, and you've done them, and you bring them in. Then at night, you try to get them in the mow, or maybe early in the morning you get them in the mow because you've got to go out and do more. So 1,000 bales is a lot to put up with a crew of 4 or 5 people, but we did a few of those days. And I look back on those days and I think, now, even today, with the kind of work that I do and so on and so forth, for the right kind of money, and it wouldn't have to be huge money, I would go back to that just now. I would, if someone said to me, Al, I'll pay you this much, come out, we need to bale hay, can you give me a hand? You'd probably have to tie me down to stop me. It's like, now why was that? Well, first of all, it's the kind of work that is hard to do physically. You need to have some skills, but you develop them quickly. So your mind can be in other places while you do the work once you've got it right. So you can ponder, you can think about other things. Secondly, it's good physical work. It's a lot of good movement and so on. So you have the joy of this movement and this strength. Third, there's this wonderful sense of accomplishment. Once you've filled up a wagon, you say, hey, look, we've got that one. Let's bring on the next one. It's that whole sense. Fourth, there's a sense of teamwork. As you've already guessed, you can't do this alone, or a farmer that would have to do it alone would be extremely worn out. If he had to go and you probably couldn't. You need somebody working the wagons and somebody doing it, somebody driving. It's hard work. And this whole sense of doing things together and accomplishing these things together, probably that's the one element looking back on haying that is the silent advantage. You see a whole group of people working together as a team, thinking on behalf of anyone else. And you see that in sport as well. So you have all of these things together. You have this sense of accomplishment and so on. And of course, you're also outside. And you smell the wonderful air, you're out in the sun, you think, this is it. And as a young man, I did not appreciate all of those things that today I look back on with such fond memories. There's a wonderful passage in the book of Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes is kind of my go-to book when I'm a bit overwhelmed with life, that talks about remembering the Lord in the day of your youth and just remembering all the good things that you have. If you're younger and you're watching this video, may I please encourage you to remember the good things that you have and to take stock of them, to count your blessings, name them one by one. back and forth in the whole haying cycle, you learn a lot about what you can do. You learn about your capabilities because you start on this saying, there's no way in the world we can accomplish this. Yet at the end of every day, you say, look what we did. Look at the work that we did. Look at the quality of things that we did, that wonderful sense of accomplishment. Ladies and gentlemen, work is good. This has been Life Lessons from the Crazy Dutch Farmer. It is the lesson called haying. The farmer said, Albert, you will remember this day, this time of haying more than anything else. And it's absolutely true. Today, I would do it again just for the memories. God bless you. My name is Al Person. You can contact me at pastor@mascot.church or in the comments below if they're switched on. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let's help the channel grow.